everybody to yet another live interview with Become a Fearless Father. And today, Andrew Chris. Brothers, thank you so much for hopping on. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, man.
Let's go have some fun for the next 45 minutes or so, talking about tons of stuff, man. I checked you out a little bit. First of all, man, because we were talking and you just mentioned you just started the full verse of being an entrepreneurial dad and, working on your own business, making it go kaboom.
I'm trying to make it go kaboom. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So share with us, man, because I get a lot of fathers reaching out as well that are working 9 to 5 and they see it and they're like, oh, this is so amazing. I want to be an entrepreneur dad as well. I'm like,
right.
Man, might not be for you. So can you share with us, first of all, a little bit, what have been the challenges that you've run into so far that you weren't aware of before you started out on this journey?
Right. I think, when I started becoming this, we call it a dadpreneur. I like that term. I've had some great ideas. I've been working on it throughout my professional career for a while. I've wanted to kind of branch into my own stuff. And so I was like, all right, this is going to be awesome. I got to become a stay-at-home dad a couple months ago. And I was like, all right, I've got to launch it now. This is the chance. It is really hard to stay on it. It is such a roller coaster ride. One day you're like, look at that. I got 1,000 looks on Facebook. Yes. And then the next day, nobody looks at anything. And you're like, oh, what happened? This is such good information. Why does nobody want to look at it? So right. I think getting used to that roller coaster ride and recognizing that's just part of the journey rather than an indicator of whether you're doing a good job or not, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. I remember when I started out with these live interviews and I had some cool people on. I'm like, wow, I got this guy on. It's going to be amazing. And it was and half an hour, nobody. That thing just kept standing on zero. I was like, God, what's going on? So I definitely understand where that's coming from. It is definitely, you got to learn to create a thick skin and at the same time, just keep going, right? Just keep going. So that's amazing, man. So it's just not all about challenges, right? It's also about the benefits. What are some of the things that you've noticed now as a stay-at-home dad that you're like, oh, yes, man, I wouldn't change this for the world?
I have never been closer to my kids. That's the first one. I was working in a psychiatric facility for a while. I was a manager, and it was a very rewarding job, but it was incredibly stressful. The hours were long, and that was the most disconnected I had felt from my kids. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I've been pretty involved in their lives throughout. I've had some jobs that have allowed me to work from home, not as an entrepreneur, but I was working from home and things like that. And it was like I said, it was a great job, but man, it just kept me home or away from home, and I felt so disconnected. And so one of the cool things is, I get to get my son on the bus for school when he goes to school, just little simple things like that to them are just huge. But I was missing out on it for a while. And I didn't realize how much that was impacting me, not just as a dad, but as a person. I wasn't running on top of my game either and all around. And so I think one of the biggest things is I feel so much more connected to my kids and my wife. And, even though I have to force myself to get out of the house for a while to take a break, because that's one, one advantage of having a 9 to 5 job is you get out of the house for a while. But it's been awesome. And it's, I know my kids are going to, in 20 years, look back and go like, hey, do you remember when we got to spend a lot of time with dad? And, we've got a son that's got some disabilities that I've been able to kind of help him with, as he tries to navigate school and things like that. And so it's just been really rewarding in that way.
I hear you. What kind of disabilities are we talking about, if I may ask?
We're still in the process of getting testing and things like that. We do know for sure some learning disabilities. There's been some language, like processing, communication, and things like that. So,
I hear you. So you're still working through that. That's
still working through it.
That's the awesome thing, right? As you said, you're right there. So you get to spend all that time with him and spend some extra time, to make sure that it doesn't become as worse as people think, right? Because you're just helping him. At a certain point, you're not even going to call it a disability anymore. It's just, you know what it is, and we're just working on it to prove it to nobody. especially him, doesn't see it as a disability, right? That's
Exactly.
important. Awesome, man. Great to hear that. So, Andrew, share a little bit about you. Share a little bit about your background. We already know you got a 5-year-old boy, right?
Mm-hmm. And a 3-year-old girl.
And a 3-year-old girl. Man, you're lucky.
One
Mine
of
are
each.
almost the same age, but I got 2 boys, and I was aiming for the girl. Oh.
Yeah, we lucked out. We got one of each, and we were like, done, good, perfect.
Excellent. So share. Yeah, as I said, share with us your background story. I'm going to show it for the people. This is the website, right?
Yes. So this is the website. The company that we started is the Life Empowerment Organization. I actually run it with my wife. So it's pretty fun. We co-founded it together. We both just, it looks at 3 different areas of life: the relationship we have with ourselves, the relationship we have with our partners, and then using parenting skills, the relationships we have with our kids. So I've got an extensive background in like mental health and human services. I'm a marriage and family therapist and things like that. I've been a preschool teacher, a family case manager, a parent facilitator of curriculum, so I've done a lot of different things. And one thing I just kind of noticed when I was trying to help parents is everybody wants to change their kids' behavior, but they don't want to look at their own, kind of thing. And so we've kind of drawn on some of my background and some of her experiences and stuff and pulled this together to really focus on what are we doing as parents or as human beings or as partners to figure out how can we navigate through life. So it's not an easy thing. Like a few of the parents I've worked with are like, man, this is hard. This is tough. And it's like, well, if parenting's easy, something may be up. I mean, there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of good things. But if you're like just breezing through it on a day-by-day basis, it might be time to kind of look back and go, what am I doing? Kind of thing. Because I don't know about you, my 5 and 3, they give me a run for it some days. It's just like, oh my gosh, I am so done. I don't know what to do. My wife gets home from work and I'm like, it's your turn. I'm done. I'll be downstairs for a few minutes, kind of thing. And so it's really focused on ourselves and getting to know ourselves, our strengths, and what we need to do.
Absolutely, man. I hear you on that one. Yeah, sometimes run to my wife. Oh, I'm so happy you're home.
You're the best MVP.
Exactly. Wow, the dog. I'm gonna walk the dogs. Be back in like 5 hours. See you.
Walk the dog for 5 hours. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I definitely hear where you're coming from. I don't know about you, but especially the second one. My boy now is also 3. My wife just called me. I'm with my parents at the moment. I actually got 4 days off for relaxation time. I'm with my parents. I didn't take the kids with me this time. But she called us on WhatsApp, and the youngest one, he just didn't stop talking. The phone came on. She turned it. We said goodbye, turned it off, and then she sent me another message of him just talking. Can I go again?
Yeah.
Dude, does he ever stop? Where's the off button on this kid? But anyway. Right?
Yeah, our 3-year-old we call a 3-nature. She already acts like she's 16, and
oh yeah, I've seen that as well. That's crazy. But yeah, is it possible that's a real thing?
I don't know. It could be. I've got a couple nieces that have done the same thing. We definitely don't try to discourage that autonomy and that independence, but man, does it butt heads with us sometimes.
Yeah, I can understand that. I saw that in the veterinarian. There was a 4-year-old girl, and she, wow, woohoo! She had a mouth. It was holy smoke. She was really like what you said, like independent. Just saying what she was. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm happy. I'm not have a girl.
we walked into her room the other day, and she had climbed up these bins in her closet, had gone all the way to the top shelf and grabbed a toy that she wanted. And I was like, you shouldn't be doing this. But at the same time, I'm like, wow, like right on. Like, that's so cool. Like, should I be cheering this on or should I be discouraging it? Like, I don't know, but it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have that sometimes as well, where they make their own breakfast, right? However, it wasn't healthy at all. They're like, all right, I can be happy. He made his breakfast by himself. However, all right, just let it go.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome.
Although you don't want to discourage them from trying something,
True.
because then later when you're like, hey, let's learn to make your own breakfast. And they're like, well, I remember 2 years ago when you let me have it for making my own breakfast. So I don't think I'm going down that road again.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a tough balance.
No, that's true. And I was thinking, look, if we have it in the house, they should be able to eat it. And I shouldn't get upset about it. It's just
Right.
like, if I don't like him to eat it in the morning, then I shouldn't have it in the house. So
That's fair.
yeah. All right. So I like that, man. I got a lot to talk about, a lot of questions.
Sounds good.
So relationships with self, partner, and kids, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think all three are so important, but especially the self. So let's start with that one, because I just wrote a post about that last week, and I was mentioning, like, look, it's for a reason that in the airplane they tell you to put on your own mask first and take care, make sure that you are, you're yourself. You're done, right? So
you can't take care of others if you haven't taken care of yourself.
Exactly. So share with us a little bit, man, because you've done this for a while. You've coached a lot of people on this. Share with us, man. What are some of the things that you've noticed that, and let's keep it at our home, right? What fathers aren't doing, what they should definitely do, or research or whatever it is, to make sure that they are taking care of themselves, right?
Yeah. I think a pretty common theme I've seen when working with dads is, we provide a lot, not just money. We put a lot of effort in, we sacrifice time and things like that. And both parents do, mom does as well. But, I think as dads, we tend to neglect ourselves because we're so focused of taking care of everybody else. And it's almost become selfish to take care of yourself. Like, it almost feels that way. Like, if I'm taking some time to go walk the dog for 5 hours or whatever it was you said, right? But even just, hey, I need 30 minutes to go work in the garage or whatever, we almost feel guilty about it. Because it's like, well, that's 30 minutes I should be spending with my kids or my partner or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is we only have so much to give if we're not refilling. There's kind of this cool graphic I've seen going around. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a statue of this dad who's like full of holes, and then the kids made up those holes, kind of thing. And I really like that. It's a really powerful image. But at the same time, if we're not refilling ourselves back up, at some point, we're not going to have anything left to give. And when our children truly need it, we won't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not uncommon for me when I'm working with dads to see dads getting really upset at home really fast. Like, patience is a big one. Like, I have no patience. Everything just ticks me off. My kid screams too loud and I snap, and things like that. And that's indicating, like, you haven't met your needs yourself. Like, you're not taking care of yourself. You're not recharging your battery, right? It's just like a cell phone. We all have them. Well, if you let your phone run for 4 days or however long batteries last these days, but you jump back in, and then you're out driving in a place you've never been, you're like, oh, I need my GPS, but your phone's dead and you don't have a charger, like, it's done. Like, it can no longer give you anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way as a dad with our kids. If we have let ourselves run for so long, we're not going to have anything to give back to our kids. And then we start feeling guilty about it. We start feeling like we're not fulfilling our roles as dads. We're not, even work can get affected. Every part of our life gets affected. And so one of the big things is really working with dads to help them notice it's not selfish to take care of yourself. That is not a selfish thing. Now, if that's all you're doing, like 23 hours out of the day, 7 days a week, yeah, now you're in the selfish territory, but if you are taking time to recharge your battery, to get yourself going again, there's nothing wrong with that because you're going to be a better dad for that. And then the kids are going to learn, oh, it's important to take care of myself and make sure I'm good too. Because look at what dad's done, or look at what mom's done, or whoever, whatever parent. So I think that's been one of the biggest, is helping dads recognize it's okay to take that time. You need to have hobbies. You need to have individual goals or dreams, and that it's okay to go for them. Now, if it is coming at the expense of your child, yeah, then you need to kind of reevaluate that a little bit. But there still is nothing wrong with taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, Absolutely agree there. And I was actually going to ask, like, what are some of the things that, or how can someone find out? Because I can also understand at one point I wasn't taking care of myself and I was just like lost. And then somebody said, like, dude, you got to fill up your own cup. And I was so lost. I was like, with what? How am I
Right.
gonna
What am
fill
I
up my,
filling it with?
right? How am I? Yeah, exactly. So what are some of the things that you've noticed is like, or how does one go on the discovery of finding out, okay, what is it that I need to really fill myself up? And how long does it usually take? Are we talking about an hour a day, 2 hours, 3 hours? Or does that completely differ for each?
Right. For what I found, it definitely differs for each dad and what's important to them, right? Because for some of us, time alone will be really important. For others, time with friends is going to be really important, different things like that. But I think one of the first things I tend to do is, what are you doing now that's taking care of yourself or not? Because sometimes what we need to highlight first is the things that are not taking care of ourselves, but we're still doing regularly. Like, well, I have no time, but I am watching Netflix for 3 hours a night. Okay, well, now we just found a little area of time that we can carve out, and we all do it. We all do it. It's a busy world. We're stressed. Nighttime comes, and I'm just like, I'm done, kind of thing. But really looking at our time, how are we spending our time now?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the first obstacles that's going to come up is, well, I have no time.
True.
And I had a mentor once tell me, if you're saying I don't have time, it means it's not a priority. Because we all have time. We all can find the time if we truly sit down and look at it. And at first I was probably like most people, like, oh, that's rude. Like, that's not true. And then you look down at your day and you're like, wait a second, it really kind of is true. Like, I really could find an hour or whatever. So I try to hit the obstacles first. Like, what are those? This is why I can't do it first.
Mm-hmm.
Just so that's not even in play. Like, well, I don't have time. Oh, wait, yes, I do. And this is when I can do it. And sometimes you have to schedule it. And some people feel that's superficial. But you know what? If it gets it in your day and helps you recharge, I'll take it. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'd rather know that, okay, Wednesday at 5 p.m., I'm going to go walk around the lake, next to our house or whatever. I wish I lived by a lake, by the way. I don't. So that's kind of the first thing I'll do is kind of figure out what's the obstacles, what's getting in the way, and what are maybe some things that you're doing that are not helping, that can actually be draining your battery faster. Because, sitting down and watching Netflix for 3 hours a day without doing anything else, that really can drain your battery.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask, when you were younger or now, like, if you time, money, and stuff was no concern, what would you do? Or what hobbies have you wanted to pursue? Do you want to exercise more? Do you want to eat better? Do you want to paint? Do you want to build something? It doesn't take like, well, I want to fly across the world. Okay, you can work towards that, but what if I worked with a guy, he always wanted to do woodworking. I can't stand woodworking. I don't get it. The tools are cool, but I don't have the patience. But he's like, I've always wanted to get into woodworking. And his grandpa or somebody had left some like old fashioned like chisels and stuff for him.
Oh, nice.
And he's like, they've just been sitting in a box. He's like, they're just up in the attic with, cobwebs and stuff. So he started twice a week taking that down and working. And he built or, like chiseled out some really cool things. Well, now people are like, will you make me something? So now he's like actually turned it into like a little side job, and he's making sure it's still a passion to him and not becoming a drain for him as well. Cause that's sometimes what we got to watch. Like maybe the gym's builds you up, but then you're now going to the gym 4 hours a day. So now it's no, kind of thing. Balance, right? But, finding those little things of what would make me feel better. Exercise is kind of a common one that comes up, but it can be anything, man. Painting, running, fishing. I love to fish. I wish I got to fish more. Does that make sense, though?
Yeah. I definitely appreciate that. So let me ask you the next thing, because you mentioned relationship with self, partner, and kids. Now, I see it a lot where the relationship gets conflicted, and I ask what's going on, or what are your values, and they always say the same thing. my kids come first, right? I said the same thing a year ago, like, oh, my kids come first. And then I was like, wait a minute, my relationship is actually like not going so perfect. You're putting your kids first the whole time. You're spending all your time, you focus on that, and you're missing out on what's most important, and that's your wife, right? So what's your view on that? And that's the next one that we go into then.
What's my view? Yeah, it always kind of throws couples off, like when I've been in therapy with them or kind of working with them in more of kind of this capacity. Because I'm with you. It's actually you and your partner are the priority. Because if your relationship is not working, your parenting is going to crumble. And your kids are going to feel it, and your kids are going to see it. And our kids are learning about relationships through our relationship, right? It's kind of building that map in their head of, oh, so this is what you should do. So if you're neglecting each other, it's like, oh, well, I could tell that was important to dad, but he didn't bring it up. So whenever something's important to me with my future partner, I won't bring it up. It's not exactly what they're consciously recognizing, but they are building that, which is why we do things like our parents did. And we're like, oh, what am I doing? Kind of thing. But absolutely, if you and your partner are not strong, it's going to tumble all the way down. And the hard part is making our partners and ourselves a priority is hard because especially when kids are younger, they're so needy, and they should be, right? They don't know what to do yet. They can't feed themselves. They can't put themselves to bed. As they get older and they get more, experienced in things, they can do stuff, but they take a lot of time. So what typically has to happen is the couple needs to figure out, okay, so we know we've got limited time, we know we've got limited resources for us, but how do we maximize it? Because even just simple little connections throughout the day are so much more important than like the big grand gesture. I had a couple once, they were awesome. They have said, please share this idea with other couples and stuff. They have a whiteboard in their room because they go to work at different times. And so the goal is they have to write one thing they're grateful for about their partner each day on this whiteboard. And it cannot be the same thing. Like they can't repeat. And it has to be specific. And they have said that was huge in transforming their relationship, because instead of those times where we feel neglected and our tank's running low and it's like, my partner never does this, my partner never does that. Look, they put the dishes away wrong. Look, and then there's this message that says, I'm so grateful for the sacrifice you made of going to get our kid from soccer practice, even though you had a meeting right afterwards. Things like that. It changes our mind. We start looking at our partner and grateful for what they do, even with everything that's going on. So we look for those little times to connect rather than why we're disconnected. Because we can focus all day long on why we're disconnected, but what does it do for us? Nothing, right? It just keeps us disconnected. So absolutely, I'm with you on that one. We've got to keep our partners and us close. It sounds selfish again that like, well, we got to be the priority. But we're not going to take care of our kids very well if we're feeling neglected. We're going right back to where we were. If my tank's not full, I've got nothing to give. Well, when we're in a relationship, we've got to give to them and feel it in return. And that's going to impact the parenting too.
Yeah. No, what you mentioned, it impacts the kids a lot, right? It's a difference between having two parents that are happy and snuggling with each other and supporting each other, making sure that everything works, than having two parents walking around fighting, arguing, groping. It makes all the difference, absolutely. So in regards to the kids, we both have, our kids are both the same age. What are some of the things that you do to make sure that you connect with them?
Yeah. One of the first things I try to do is enter their world, not make them enter mine. One of the things I love to talk about is you've got to have one-on-one time as much, if you can't do it daily, you've got to find a way to make it a priority, because where you do have, like, you've got two, is that what you said, or three? I can't remember.
No, two, just like you.
Two, just like me, right?
Yeah.
They will still compete for your time. And we don't want our kids to learn that they have to compete for our time, right? Sometimes the reason kids don't get along and they fight with each other is because, well, it got mom or dad over here, you know? Like, in a way, they're working together to get mom and dad there, even though they're not getting along. But then when you're with them, you got to enter their world. I worked with a dad who, excuse me, he was like, hey, I want to build my relationship up with my son. And he was kind of that like stereotypical big football player in high school. I want to lift weights. I want to pull a car and I want to blow stuff up, kind of guy. And his son was not. He loved art. He loved music. He loved to go to plays, and things like that. And so for a couple of weeks, the dad was trying to play catch with him and to do these things. And the dad was like, this is great. And the son's like, I don't like this. And so then the dad was like, why isn't this working? I'm trying to spend one-on-one time. And I was like, well, you're not speaking his language. You're trying to put your world into enter his world. And wow, suddenly I just had a loud ding in my ear, but our kids like interesting, strange, weird things. My son loves anything from dragons to vacuums to, I don't know, dinosaurs and dirt and worms. My daughter loves butterflies and dolls and trucks and, but if I go, you know what, no, we're going to throw all that out the window and instead we're going to play guitar, and they're like, oh, I hate guitar. It's not going to do anything for them. Like, that doesn't build connection. Yeah, we've got time, but it's not quality time. So that's the big thing. We got to enter their world, and it's not always comfortable as a parent. I can only take so much Doc McStuffins. I'm just saying. I can only take so much, but it's important to them. And if I show them that if it's important to them, it's important to me, that's powerful to them. It means what they like matters, rather than me coming in and saying, that's not what you should like. You should like this. Sam.
Exactly. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I love Legos, and my oldest and my youngest kind as well. They play with it, but they love their super things. I don't know if they have them in the States. It's like these plastic little dolls, and I don't know. They look really weird. But he plays with them every single day. So I kind of play with him, but I'm kind of like, dude, what is? Because he's just like, I'm like, dude, how can we play like that? I can't.
Right.
So sometimes, yeah, it's definitely a challenge. But yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying, man. I actually got to step up my game on that part.
I think we all could step up our game on that part.
Yeah, no, it's not easy, absolutely. But luckily for me, they like martial arts as well. They practice karate. I practice Muay Thai, so we're both in the martial arts world. So that's nice. But yeah, man, that's a good one. They love drawing, and I'm not that big of a fan, but I like to hey, go on, let's get the painting stuff out and do some drawing and stuff like that. But yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I got to step it up and play more with them with their super sings, even though they're absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, man, so what about, because this is always a big thing as well, right? What if the kids do something that they're not supposed to do, right? What if we go into the area of disciplining our kids? What's your philosophy on that? What's your strategy on that?
Yeah, discipline is obviously, whenever I have parents come in, I mean, that's the first question. My kid is out of control. How do I rein them back in, kind of thing, or what do I do? And so this is going to shock you. I always start with the relationship first, because we could have the greatest parenting technique that's ever been developed, foolproof, fantastic. But if that relationship's not there, it's not going to matter. Think about like somebody that you trust and respect so much that if they were to give you some feedback, you'd be like, oh man, that, but I needed to hear it. And yeah, I'll follow through with that. It's not because they were some stranger off the street. We have a deep relationship with them. We're connected with them. We trust them. We respect what they have to say with us, about us. And so I always start with the relationship first, because if that's not strong, it's really not going to matter what you're throwing at them in terms, not like literally, don't literally throw things. That is not what I'm saying. But it doesn't matter what kind of strategies you're going to use. If that relationship is weak, it's just going to be weak. And so we've developed two different kind of things to keep that in mind. The first for the relationship building is we do what's called the relational bank account, where we just kind of compare it to a checking account. Mm-hmm. So the higher your balance is, the more you can do, right? So if you want to go to, I don't know what a movie costs to go to the movie theater where you're at, but I mean, if we were to take my wife and 2 kids and get like candy and popcorn, like we're somewhere between $70 and $100, and that's a lot of money for a movie, and things like that. Well, if we have, this would be fantastic, if we had $150,000 in our checking account, that's nothing. There's no stress over it, nothing. If we have $80 in our checking account, and this is what we're going to go do, now we're stressing, right? Now it's like, I don't know if we should do this. Our relationship with our kids is the same way. If we have to discipline, but the balance is really high, it's not going to take as much out and affect that relationship. Mm-hmm. But if that balance is low, so there's already some tension and some stress, some disconnect between us, and now I'm going to tell you to stop doing what you're doing, which every human being loves to be told, stop doing that, right? Everybody loves that, But the relationship is tense. Well, I'm just adding to the stress now. Mm-hmm. And we're getting further away. And the hard part is we can actually encourage more of that misbehavior, because now it's like, screw it. I'll just keep going. Mm-hmm. So that's why the relationship is where we start building it up and things like that. However, that doesn't mean we're going to let the kid get away with everything, just so that's clear. We're not permissive in that way. When expectations are in the home and are not being met, or behaviors are potentially hurtful or harmful to others or themselves, we're going to intervene. And there are going to be times that you have to take that withdrawal from your account no matter what. Mm-hmm. It's just got to happen. But to kind of look at discipline styles, we've come up with what we call the CAPS framework. It's kind of like 4 questions to ask yourself. If you can answer yes to all 4, you're probably in pretty good territory. So CAPS means the first is clear. Are the expectations in the home clear? I don't know about you, but I don't like to get in trouble for rules I didn't know existed. Mm-hmm. I hate that. It just drives me crazy. Like, well, if I would have known better, of course I would have done better. But now not only am I getting pointed out I did something wrong, I'm also getting, in trouble for it too. So that's kind of where that clear comes in. And also what's going to happen because of it, right? So I had a family I worked with. They were having trouble getting their kid home on time for curfew. And so the rule then became, if you're not home by, I think it was like 11 or something like that, and you walk in at 11:03 and you haven't contacted us as to maybe why you're going to be late, the keys are ours. Like, that was the expectation. Mm. But if you come in before 11, we don't even have to talk about the keys. They're yours, that kind of thing. So is it clear? And then the A is applicable, is what we're trying to do applicable to what happened. When I taught in the jails, they like to say, the punishment fits the crime. I don't really like to say that with my kids, but yes, that concept, right? Does it fit? So if the kid drew on the wall, and now I'm having them go clean my entire garage, which is going to take 4 days because it's just a nightmare in there, it doesn't fit, Whereas cleaning the wall fits. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
And then the P is practical. Can I follow through with it? Mm. Right? If you were in my home and I'm like, dude, you're now grounded for a year, I'm not enforcing that. I can't do that for a year. And if I do, I just made my life suck. And you're going to be like, oh, I'm home for a year. You're going to enjoy this, So can I follow through with it? And then the S is steady. Can I do it every time? Right? So trust and respect in relationships is built up with positive experiences over time. Are you going to do what you say you're going to do? As weird as it is, research has shown over and over, kids want that predictability. Even if they know they're going to get in trouble for what they do, they want to know, will you follow through with it? Mm-hmm. Right? So you told me you would take my keys. Yes, I'm still going to fight you on taking my keys because those are my keys. But if you don't follow through on it, like, you just kind of let me down. because you didn't say what you were going to do. So now when I'm going to come to you because, you know, somebody just offered me some drugs, or, hey, there's this kid that I kind of want to have sex with or whatever, I'm not going to go to you because you've just shown me over time I can't follow through with that. You know, so that's the cap. So running it through that, can I answer yes to all that? You know, we do hold children to expectations. I'm big on what's the lesson that can be learned. So you drew on the wall, right? I'd rather my kid draw on the wall at 3 than go graffiti a train car at 15, you know, kind of thing. So at home, you're going to clean it up. And then we're going to talk about why would we not do that? Where do we draw on that? Where, right? So you had a marker, because what kid, right? I saw in a post the other day that it was a Sharpie lid, and it's like, if you find a Sharpie lid as a parent, you panic, you know, because it's like, where's the marker? You know, it's normal. But then what are we teaching them about appropriate use? And okay, so you had a Sharpie, now you need to clean up the mess, and this is where you can use it, you know, things like that.
Exactly.
It's tough. It's tough. I'm not gonna lie. Discipline's tough, man. I teach this stuff, and there's still times my kids do stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do, man. I don't know what to do. And that's one area where my wife and I have been, she's really been good at teaching me too. Like, if you don't know what to do in that situation, don't do anything. Pull yourself centered first, you know, get yourself to a better place. And that's kind of where, when we work with parents, we bring it back to the parent. Where are you at? Are you so mad that you're going to hit it too hard for what the situation actually needs? Because if that's the case, step back. The kid's going to remember what they did, right? I mean, they will. So we can still address, I mean, don't wait 2 weeks and then come back and be like, hey, remember that time you drew on the wall? You know, don't do that. You know, but if you're in such a place where, you know, maybe you haven't taken care of yourself again, right? Or you're just impatient, you're upset, you're stressed, and you're like, I'm about to snap because my kid forgot to put his socks in the hamper.
Yeah.
Like, how big of a withdrawal am I going to take from the relationship because I'm mad? Is it worth, you know, is it worth that? And so that's kind of, I think, the big part when it comes to discipline too, is where am I at when I'm getting ready to do this? If I'm going to come at it from a place of power, like I'm the dad and you better do this, right? The funny thing is, when I've worked with dads, I kind of ask them, what kind of boss do you like? You know, I put out a post the other day that was something along the lines of, are you the type of leader for your children that you would want to follow? Because typically what we see is, like, we're kind of micromanagers, and it's easy to follow into as a parent. It's easy to fall into that. But we're like the type of leader we wouldn't want to follow. Like, we have those kind of bosses. We're like, oh, that person's a jerk. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be called into the office just because I did something, you know, that kind of thing. But then we kind of do the same thing. And so our approach is, let's not do that. Let's be the type of leader we would want to follow. You know, if I had done something wrong at work, I would want my boss to go, why don't you tell me what you saw happening and, you know, what you did? Give me that chance to clarify. Well, maybe I didn't do that report because I just totally forgot, or maybe it was I got this part done and it took way longer than I expected it to, and I just didn't get to part D or whatever, you know, as quickly as I should have. Our kids want the same thing. And so when we're able to give them that space, or we calm down enough to where we're like, okay, now we can talk, you know. And when it comes to that relational bank account, I don't know about you, there are just days where you're just like in a flow with your kids. Have you ever noticed that? You're just like, man, things are going so good. We're not misbehaving, or even if we are, like, we're just breezing right through it. Like, it's not a big deal. We're having fun. Well, that's when that connection's good, right? Things are going well. We're following through. It's when it starts getting more tense and it feels like, man, all I'm doing is disciplining. That's all I'm doing. We really need to look at, where's our relationship at? Like, are we in the negative at this point? Like, are we, you know, lots of fees and stuff? And so that kid is just like, I'm done. Because they will. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but I have. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had last year some issues with our youngest one. He's going bananas, hitting everybody, punching everybody, biting even. He bit one kid in the back in the shoulder blade. And first, I just didn't know how to deal with it, right? I just yelled at him when he hit his brother again, or bit him again, or slapped him on the ass at one point. Like, okay, that yelling apart is not working. Let's try slapping, because maybe he understands that you don't hit somebody because it hurts. That didn't work. And then I flipped it because I heard from somebody saying, like, look, what you said, right? The relationship's got to be good. And I started giving him hugs, and just little by little. Mm-hmm. Now they still fight a little bit, but, they're brothers, so, what you going to do, right? But at least at school, it's all like, I ask the first week when he went to school, I was asking every day. Say, hey, how's it going? Are we cool? Are we good? Wow, you really changed over the summer. I'm like, oh, yes. Bonus points for daddy. Yeah, at first you're like, dude, how am I going to solve this? So yeah, I appreciate that, man. But one question towards that: what if the parents each of them have a complete different parenting style?
Yeah. That never happens. That never happens.
Yeah.
What you typically see is if one parent's a little more strict, the other one's a little more lenient, right? And the more the strict one sees the lenient, they're like, oh, well, now I've really got to crank down because that parent's not. And so then the lenient parent's like, well, they're really cranking down, so I got to get even lit, right? And so then we get into this. And part of that, too, is usually when we come into this of, okay, we're going to make a kid or however, some parents, like, it was oh, okay, we're pregnant. Oops, kind of thing. Others plan for it. But we don't really examine where our parenting style came from. We don't really, the families we grew up in are huge. We may want to do what they did, or we may want to do the complete opposite. My wife would tell you, like, my family's pretty blunt about problems. We'll just talk about them. Her family, they kind of try to avoid it and really not hurt each other's feelings, And so there's been times where I'm like, hey, kids, we've got a problem. We need to sit down and talk about it. And she's like, but she's, but a lot of that too is coming back to that relationship with you and your partner too. The stronger you are there, the more you can have this open dialogue. It's no longer we're competitive as parents. It's we're on the same team as parents. I love basketball. I don't know if you do. I love the NBA. I love that. But those players are not the same player, right? Everyone fulfills a different role. So just because they're a different style of player doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means we got to figure out how to make these two different styles mesh. And what typically happens when the relationship is struggling, we start turning things into competition with one another. You're wrong, I'm right, that kind of thing. And so instead of really looking back and going like, okay, hey, this situation happened. Like, I saw you do this with our kid. I'm just curious, I would have tried this. Let me know more about why you did that. What were you going for? And it's not this like, I'm interrogating you kind of, it's genuine. Like, I'm trying to figure out what you're doing. Because I think a lot of the times too, we make assumptions that we know what the partner's doing, but we don't actually, it's our views. And then we're like, well, I believe that's probably true. Who knows? I've worked with some parents that they were totally cool with, like spanking and things like that, and their partner was not. Well, come to find out, that partner had gone through some stuff when they were a kid, and they're like, I promised myself I would never do this. So they weren't weak, as like their partner was thinking. They were just, I want to find a different way, but because that communication channel got shut off, there was no discussing it. And so they got into that power struggle dynamic with each other. So whenever I work with two parents that are, coming with different styles, which we all have different styles, every one of us, nobody has the same parenting style. We may have the same goals, the same ideas, but how we get there is going to be very different. And I don't know about you, but I'm not the same dad I was 2 years ago.
True.
I've grown, I've changed, I've adapted. There's been times where I'm like, oh, wow, what was I thinking on that one? Or other times like, hey, I'll try that again because that seemed to work really well. And then the next time it did not go as well. Like every time is so situational and so unique. So if we think like, this is it, this is my style and that's all I'm doing, we are so holding ourselves back. There is so much to learn and we have to continually learn and grow, or our kids struggle and our relationship with our partners struggle. So we've got to open up that communication, and they're not easy conversations. I will throw that out there. If you have a differing parenting style than your partner, it may not be an easy conversation because they're probably going to think you're coming after them a little bit. But as long as we've got that, again, same with our partner, that relationship is strong, it's feeling connected, then we can kind of say, hey, we need to do as a team better. How can I do better, right? I always like to say, can we throw it on ourselves first to open up that safety of now we can talk about this? But if we're just assuming we know why our partner is doing what they're doing and we're upset about it, we gripe about it, we're just going to make it worse. We're just going to push them further in that direction. We're stepping out, and it's not helpful whatsoever. So just starting with that discussion of why do you do what you do? What is it that we're going for as a team? Establishing those parenting goals as a team. Like, what is it we want, and how are we going to accomplish it?
Exactly. Awesome, man. I love it. Man, we went over 45 minutes already.
Oh my gosh, that went fast.
Yeah, I know. Biggest takeaway I got from all this is make sure that all your relationships are on point. The one with yourself, the one with your partner, and the one with your kids. And then take it from there. I love that. So I'm definitely going to keep that in my mind. Andrew, thank you so much for being on. Really appreciate it. Everybody else, thank you for having been here. Whether that's live right now or replay or on YouTube. Well, actually, we're live on YouTube at the same time as well now, thanks to StreamYard. But later on, this will go on the podcast. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, I'm just going to say it real quick. You check out Andrew's website right here. Andrew, how else can people stay in contact with you, ask you some more questions if they have any?
Yeah, you can look up our Facebook page, Life Empowerment Organization. We're on there. The website, again, empoweringthejourney.com. We have a Twitter. I'm not going to lie, I'm still learning Twitter, so I wouldn't go there yet, kind of thing. Facebook or our website's probably the fastest way I'm going to get back to you. Our website also has, you can email connect@empoweringthejourney.com, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So those are the easiest ways.
Great. I also put the YouTube channel in there. I saw that's something that you're building out as well. So that link is in there. So all the links are in the description. So check it out and make sure always to show some love, subscribe, like, whatever is necessary, right? Again, Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time for being on. Really enjoyed it. Everybody else, thanks. And we'll see each other again next week during another live. Take care. Bye-bye.
See ya.